Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new Virtue's Rage right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I am Virtue. I am sorry to everyone that I piss off. Am I, though? Jargo, what's up, man? Thanks for joining me again for a Rage.
I know, man. It's almost like this is a regular thing that we do every week.
Yes, and the review, which you're going to be on again this week. All right, here is the topic of conversation. What you like? You need to be my counselor right now, because why do I get so pissed off? And I'm not saying it wrestling fans like how you like New Japan and how you talk about wrestling. I'm talking about that subsection of the AEW fans that just don't like to hear criticism. And I'm not trying to hate on AEW. Remember, I like Dan Lambert. I like Jericho, his initial run. I like MJF. I thought him and Punk should have went right out of the gates together. Here we got it. So I like Darby Allin. There's things about AEW that I like. But I think I talk negatively, or I talk about the negative stuff so much on social media. It's because I've conditioned myself to hate those, I call them cultists. But those fans, and they're trolls, and I know I shouldn't pay attention to them, and I know it's not all of the fans, but I don't see that unless I have blinders on from any other wrestling promotion. I know there's people that defend WWE to nauseum, but why am I not enjoying? What do you see? Why am I not enjoying AEW? Because of those fans that I just loathe. If you even want to call them fans, maybe they're not even fans.
I get it, man. I feel that way about a lot of different sports teams. And one of them is just here locally, and that's the Iowa Hawkeye fans. I love the Iowa Hawkeyes, but Iowa fans are just miserable people that, like when things are going good, that it's the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Everything's the greatest.
Right. And when things are not going well and you're getting blown out by Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, they want to fire our offensive coordinator at halftime. And it's like, you realize we're in the Big Ten championship game. Michigan fans are the same way. They wanted to get rid of Jim Harbaugh going into this season. And it's like, you realize he averages 9.5 wins a season, right? Like, how many schools would kill for that?
And a division that had Ohio State, some tough teams.
Right.
Wisconsin can be tough. Michigan State.
Penn State. I mean, all the way across the board, especially there in the Big Ten East. And it's just, fan is short for fanatic. And they respond to everything so emotionally. There's no sort of objective opinion to where they're listening to both sides. And, I'm always intrigued. One of the people over at Mark Media, one of the people that's on my network, absolutely hated the Danielson versus Hangman match.
And I did not hate it. I know we kind of bickered a little bit over on Sit Down. I definitely did not hate it. I just wanted it to be shorter.
But the difference between us and a lot of them, Virtue, is we can sit down, we can have an objective conversation. I can sit down and I can listen to you and what you didn't like about it, how they could improve it going forward, and what would make the entire thing more enjoyable for the audience, because we're objective people that have rational opinions. When you put the fanaticism inside of it, regardless of what the topic is, whether it's a political party, whether it's a sports team, whether it's, race or gender equality, when everything, you just look at it through this one prism and you will die on that hill one way or the other, that's where the problem comes in. And it just gets amplified on social media because everybody just reacts to everything emotionally rather than rationally and logically and actually thinking about the other person's opinion. They just want to die on the hill to defend theirs.
And see, I always go back, right? I became a wrestling fan because of the golden era of WWE. Because of that, it eventually turned me privy to WCW. And before the NWO started.
This explains so much.
Then in ECW, right?
I mean, just the difference between the two of us. You grew up a WWF fan, right? The sports entertainment, that's what Vince McMahon was always after. I grew up an NWA fan, which was based on work rate and, Ric Flair going out there and going 60 minutes and, the actual action inside of the ring, not on the microphone. This explains like the very fundamental difference between our fandom and why we look at things so differently.
You ready for the curveball though? During that time, I like the Ultimate Warrior, but you would think I would have been Hogan guy. I don't know what it was, and maybe this explains me. I love the heels. I loved all the heel factions with the heel managers. And then out of the heels, I liked the great workers like Rude, Hennig, Bret Hart, Owen Hart. Like I gravitated Savage. I gravitated towards the better workers, but I liked the entertainment aspect of it. And where I was going with this during that whole time, even when I got to high school and we had the Monday Night War, and you threw ECW in there too, I never remember anybody like picking sides. We talked about all of it, and it was all kinds of people. Burnouts playing hacky sack in the gym talked about wrestling. The football players talked about wrestling. Some girls talked about it. The nerds talked about wrestling, and it was like this melting pot. And now today, social media that has to be what killed it. We didn't have social media back then.
That and the internet and the dirt sheets. I mean, more than any other sport or any other entertainment property, wrestling fans are so insistent about what's going on behind the scenes, what was intended to happen. This didn't go the way that it was supposed to be. And wrestling fans engage in that conversation more than anything else. And I feel like that is the biggest difference between pro wrestling and really any other form of entertainment. Like when you listen to a great song, if you were a pro wrestling fan, you would want to know, well, which one of the members wrote the song more? Did he collaborate with anybody? Did he play every instrument on the recording? Who recorded the demo tape? Like we break it down so far that it's not enjoyable for anybody. But when you go to social media and everybody wants that immediate reaction, everybody wants to be the first one to say something. Everybody wants that dopamine rush of how many likes I got, how many retweets it got. What's the hottest take I can come up with? Oh my God, now I have to defend that take. Oh, I better delete that tweet. And it's obnoxious.
Dude, I remember this had to be early 90s, maybe before Owen was in WWE. And you have to explain this to me because I can't remember. How was I able to watch some Owen Hart versus Jushin Thunder Liger matches from Japan? Now, my uncle had one of those monster satellite. Did they broadcast over here at all, or would it have been tapes like imported VHS tapes? Because somewhere along the line, we didn't have the internet.
Right.
I remember watching some New Japan matches or whatever it was called back then. And I remember Owen Hart specifically. My uncle was a big wrestling fan, by the way. Well, I'm trying to remember.
I'm going to guess that probably was one of the best of Super Junior tournaments.
Okay.
And it could have been either or. I mean, you could have picked up on a Japanese TV station that happened to have. Oh yeah, like, my buddy Randy had one. It'd take like 30 seconds to like adjust the damn dish.
So
right?
many channels, so many channels.
And you were always looking for like the weirdest thing that you could possibly find. Like the '94 Super J Cup. I know that's the way I first saw it was going back and just going to my buddy Randy's house and going through stuff. Yep. The other thing was I believe there was a partnership between the NWA and New Japan Pro Wrestling going back to that time. And when they were running all that syndicate television, I could see them just like, we're going to syndicate this match. We're going to syndicate that match and just put it on our 1 hour TV broadcast.
And, I sit here today and, I talk about wrestling on Vito's channel. You talk about wrestling on your channel. We both do it on No DQ. And like, I want to only talk about things that I like. Like, that's kind of always been my, because we don't always like everything, right? But like, if you talk about the stuff you like, and I talk about the stuff I like, which is going to differ. Like, I feel like it used to be that way with fellow wrestling fans or just people that knew about wrestling in general. And today it's let's talk about stuff we don't like.
Yeah.
And I want to change. Like, I don't know. Should I? I mean, I know I'm in too far with this game here on social media, right? I'm always going to see the trolls and the people spreading hate. But like, I always have kind of enjoyed like talking about what I enjoyed. And because think about it, with all the wrestling, there's going to be stuff. There's stuff you don't like. I'm sure there's stuff in New Japan you don't like.
Oh,
right?
yeah. There's a lot of
that
it this week.
Yeah. Well, I'll go into that. I'm curious to know, like,
I mean, okay, so this week we had the World Tag League and Best of Super Juniors finals. And now they're doing them all on the same show. It's kind of been the trend throughout the COVID era. Best of Super Juniors typically is in the spring, but it's kind of been pushed off until the winter so they can run them in conjunction with each other for one massive tour as we prepare for Tokyo Dome, because that's what we're using to determine the number one contenders, very much like the G1. Best of Super Juniors winner challenges the junior champion, World Tag League winner. And this year they did a chaos team of Hiroki Goto, who is the New Japan version of Roman Reigns, and Yoshihashi, which nobody cares about. I like to call him Yoshi Bon Jovi because the best thing about him is his hair. And they were taking on the team of Evil and Yujiro Takahashi, the Tokyo Pimp. 3 of those 4 guys do not belong in a semi-main event. And yet here we are in the World Tag League final. And we end up with all kinds of Bullet Club shenanigans. We got to have all the interference. We got to have all the ref bumps and all this stupid shit that's been going on inside of New Japan Pro Wrestling for the past couple of years while they try to draw out storylines, all for, a team that doesn't deserve to be in a Tokyo Dome match facing off with the Tokyo Sports Tag Team MVPs of the year, the Dangerous Tekkers. And then in the Best of Super Junior final, it goes 38 minutes and 30 seconds. And it's just Hiromu Takahashi filling time for the sake of filling time, because at no point did anybody think that Yo was going to defeat Hiromu and go on to the Tokyo Dome. But yet the match goes 38 minutes and 30 seconds. And we have to end up with Bullet Club interference. We've got to have somebody from Bullet Club come out and take out the ref. And we've got to have this team come out. And it's just, it's becoming so WWE, where they're just doing all this stupid shit just for the sake of filling time.
How long has the Bullet Club been part of New Japan? I mean, I know it went through its intervals because we had Finn Balor, the AJ Styles, the Kenny Omega, the Jay White.
Yep.
Is it why? That's just a long time for them to stick with a group. And I know, I get it, right? Somebody moves on and you reboot it, but it seems like it's been going on for a long time. So I could imagine it getting stale.
Well, and yet when you look at things inside of the world of New Japan, Chaos predates the Bullet Club. Suzuki-gun predates the Bullet Club. Los Ingobernables de Japón is they're right about the same time as Bullet Club. That all corresponded with Naito returning from his second excursion.
You said it's like teams. It's like they got these factions because it's like teams. So it's funny to me at this point when people are like, oh, well, the Bullet Club, it's just a ripoff of the NWO. And it's like, well, you realize the Bullet Club's been around longer than the NWO was around at this point, right? Like it may have started that way, but it's evolved into this entire, faction and group inside of New Japan Pro Wrestling with subgroups, whether it be the Elite or now we have the House of Torture. We see it inside of Chaos with Great Bash Heel. It's just kind of one of those things that is very, very traditional of Japanese pro wrestling. Now, I have, how I always bring up Jay White. I got another name I want you to update me on because I haven't been keeping track. I know he was out and whatever he was doing. Where are we at with Will Ospreay in New Japan and Wrestle Kingdom? And I know he was what's the update? Because that guy's always intrigued me, right?
Yeah.
And I knew about him before the match with Ricochet.
Right.
Where are we at with him? Because I do like other people other than, the Bullet Club members. So I'm intrigued. Update me with Will Ospreay.
Ospreay has his own team now. It is called the United Empire. He has broken away from Chaos.
Okay.
Ospreay captured the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, and defended it a couple of times. And then he had some neck issues.
I remember that.
So Ospreay took some time off. They stripped him of the championship. That's when Shingo Takagi won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. A few months ago, I guess it's got to be 3-4 months ago now, Ospreay shows up at New Japan Strong here in the United States. And he says, screw New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm not going over there for the G1. You can strip me of my title, but everybody knows I am still the rightful IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. And he pulls out the belt, right? Yeah. So he has his own IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
I remember hearing about that.
So going into Wrestle Kingdom at night, they're doing 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom this year. Night 3 is going to be New Japan Pro Wrestling versus Pro Wrestling Noah. It's kind of a random one-off, both promotions trying to help each other out. So that's kind of cool, but it's its own thing. Night 1 inside of the Tokyo Dome will be the G1 Climax winner, Kazuchika Okada, taking on IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Shingo Takagi. And then night 2 will be the winner of that match, taking on Will Ospreay to once again unify the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
That explains why I've seen him on the poster then.
Yep. Okay. That's what's going on. And everybody presumes at this point, and I think correctly, that Okada wins night 1. And then you go with Okada versus Ospreay night 2, which has about 2 years worth of storyline involved in the relationship between Okada and Ospreay betraying Okada, and Ospreay then elevating himself to the main event.
Like, I'm intrigued by that. Like, more so than and again, I don't think I have New Japan fans out there I'm battling on social media. And that's why I stray away from AEW so much.
It's getting there. It's getting there now.
I want to maybe rent the app for a month to see these shows at the beginning of January.
Yeah, I mean, Wrestle Kingdom, for anybody that doesn't follow New Japan, it's their version of WrestleMania.
I've watched a couple of them before.
2 nights in the Tokyo Dome. The production is second to none. When they run the dome at full capacity, you're looking at 65, 70,000 people inside of a full Tokyo. Like, it's a big freaking deal. It's the closest thing to WrestleMania you're going to get that's not WrestleMania.
And I know they're trying to get over here, like in terms of building up. And to me, I've seen Wrestle Kingdoms, right? I've watched the Jericho matches at Wrestle Kingdoms too. I think the first Wrestle Kingdom I remember watching was the one that Jeff Jarrett was affiliated with. I think it was AJ Styles was wrestling. Nakamura was there. And
Jarrett joined the Bullet Club.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, and I don't remember bickering with fans. I don't remember people saying it was the best thing ever. Everybody just kind of watched it and let it digest, and then they talk about it the rest of January. But it's not like as it was happening, you saw tweets going up, best match ever, or oh my,
you know what I mean? It got to that point, and it was really the Kenny Omega run, right?
That's true.
When Omega raised himself to the main event, he has that great trilogy of matches with Kazuchika Okada, one of which very, very relevant today because it was a 60-minute Broadway, even though that was the second match inside of the 3-match series. So it made a little bit more sense. But people were Meltzer 7.5 stars, and it was like
scale.
and it was, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Like,
and there was a bit of polarization there.
Yeah. If he could have just said 5 stars, max it out and not go above it. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it would be a little bit different today, but there was I'm intrigued. Right. And I know you were saying last week or the week before, we still don't have any Jay White for that weekend, do we?
Now both cards for both shows have been fully announced. Jay White nowhere on the card.
So, which begs the question: is he trying to build his brand over here?
I don't think that is necessarily the case. Okay. I do think that they are trying.
Is he hurt?
No.
Okay.
The problem is getting into and out of Japan at this point.
Oh, that's right. You told me that. And I forget they got their court, like their laws, and who knows if ours will stricken back up.
Right. It's the COVID restrictions. It's very difficult to get people in and out of the country at this point. So a lot of the Gaijin talent is over here in the United States, where restrictions aren't quite as serious, and they're trying to build New Japan strong around people like Jay White, which I think is a smart move and a mistake at the same time, because rather than sending Jay White to somewhere like an AEW to go and feud with somebody like a Moxley over the US title, they sent him to Impact Wrestling to do whatever the hell he was doing at Impact Wrestling. And I thought that was a mistake at the time, and hindsight 2020, it clearly was a mistake.
Well, we'll see. I like him. I like Will Ospreay. And I'll keep you posted. Maybe, just maybe, I'm going to get that New Japan World app for those shows. Anything you'd like to say in closing? We got to get ready to go do the review.
I'm ready to bust out the review, man. It's going to be a good night. I'm looking forward to a lot of the topics. I think there's some good ones tonight. And the one that I'm most looking forward to is Brock Lesnar better as a babyface or a heel? And
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of really good conversation to go there. And some of it involves people that aren't named Brock Lesnar, like Bobby Lashley and Miro. So I'm looking forward to that conversation.
All right. So you can follow. Oh, did you give your plugs?
Social media at NotJargo, MichaelJargo.com, at MarkMedia.com, and of course over at the Hami Media Group at ChannelAttitude.com.
And you can follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. Go to NoDQ.com/merch for shirts like this. But for Dr. Jargo, I am Virtue. This has been Virtue's Rage right here on the BigVitoBrand.com and Patreon.com/BigVMafia. We will see you again next time.